And welcome to the first health talks of 2022. It's this time hosted by Kuopio Health and HiLIFE. My name is Ville Pihlajamäki and I work as a communication specialist at Kuopio Health Cooperative. A couple of words about Kuopio Health. We are an ever-growing international community of entrepreneurs, business professionals, and educational, medical, and governmental experts, and dedicated to working together in discovering and accelerating relevant ideas that are based on human needs and that could be transformed into viable commercial applications in the health, well-being, and nutrition sectors. And you can find more information about us from our website, www.kuopiohealth.com or FI. And our co-host today is HiLIFE, the Helsinki Institute of Life Science, which is one of the leading life science research institutes in the Nordics. They foster research and innovations across the University of Helsinki campuses. And during today's webinar, we'll learn about some of the infrastructure supporting and providing opportunities for cutting-edge research. And joining us will be Olli Silvennoinen from Biocenter Finland, Katja Kivinen from HiLIFE, and Matti Iso-Mustajärvi from the Microsurgery Center of Eastern Finland. They'll present to you some of these facilities that enable innovations. And after these presentations, we will have a few minutes for questions. So please, if you have any questions, write them in the chat and we'll forward them to the speakers after the talks. And if we don't have enough time to answer all of the questions, we'll get back at you via email. So thank you for joining us today and please enjoy the presentations, and let's welcome Olli Silvennoinen from Biocenter Finland. Olli, you can start. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Ville, and thank you for the organizers for inviting us. And so I'm Olli Silvennoinen, Director of Biocenter Finland, and I give you a sort of a quick snapshot of Biocenter Finland. So Biocenter Finland is a distributed national research infrastructure, and it's hosted by 6 Biocenter universities: University of Oulu, University of Eastern Finland, Tampere University. In Turku there are 2 universities, University of Turku and Åbo Academy, and in Helsinki, HiLIFE is the Biocenter, and the operational units are Institute of Biotechnology and Institute for Molecular Medicine Finland. And Katja will be kind of telling more about the activities and services in these units. The mission of Biocenter Finland is support frontier research by provision of state-of-the-art open access technology services. Biocenter Finland was established or founded 15 years ago by the aforementioned universities, and it has pioneered the nationwide coordinated development of technology services. And in addition to these concrete infrastructure services, it's also organizing a wide spectrum of training for a new generation of scientists. These technology services are accessible to the entire life science field, from ecology to food safety, biotechnology and medicine, and it's serving 17,000 life scientists in over 2,000 research groups that work either in the academic, healthcare, or in the private sector. One of the key kind of founding landmarks of Biocenter Finland is the quality and impact of these services, and it's monitored by several levels: Academy of Finland and its roadmap as well as the infrastructure calls are obviously one important. But in addition to that, so the host universities are evaluating and the services, as well as and very importantly, Biocenter Finland has an extremely esteemed international scientific advisory board. So, for example, the chair is Professor Heldin, who is also the chair of the Nobel Committee. And sort of in addition to the national network and activities. So Biocenter Finland works also in close collaboration with the European ESFRIs and the nodes. Very briefly about the sort of organizational structure, sort of the highest decision level is the Rectors Council, and the sort of the strategic executive committee is governing board, which is responsible for pretty much the key operational and strategic decisions of Biocenter Finland. Biocenter Finland has a small, lean back office director and a coordinator. And actually, for your information and advertisement, so currently the coordinator position is open. So please, if you feel appetite for sort of cutting edge research and international environment, so please sort of take this as of note on this. And obviously the back office works in close cooperation with the biocenters and the technology platforms in this. And here again, sort of the scientific advisory board sort of really want to emphasize their role because they evaluate all the platforms for 4 years terms, and that is critical for both for the quality as well as for the renewal of the services and activities. But to the essence of Biocenter Finland, so it consists of 15 technology platforms that cover the wide spectrum of life sciences. Each of the platform consists of nodes in the different biocenters, and sort of the division of tasks is based on the sort of the profiling and the expertise and activities on each of the biocenters. Some key operational principles. So obviously the entire activity relies and it is kind of directed by the strategies of the universities and as said, sort of the profiles, and this operational principle also sort of provides possibility on the national coordination and development of synergies and cooperation between the different actors. The key point here is also the joint agreement on the division of responsibilities, and here kind of combining the local expertise into nationwide knowledge base and services is kind of the key concept. And obviously this coordination avoids sort of overlapping either in investments or activities, and provides sort of the best run for the money, so to say. And as said, sort of obviously this is a concrete way on promoting collaboration between the different partners and stakeholders. Open access is the kind of key operational principle. And again here kind of the role on the scientific advisory board sort of allows both the sort of strategic continuity and also the renewal on the activities. Again, sort of some of the good practices that the Biocenter Finland has provided. So obviously the several times mentioned coordination. And here I would really want to emphasize the role of the technology platform chairs, and also kind of point out that this sort of decision is based on the internal discussions and agreement by the platform members, and obviously that here kind of the profiling of the universities also is taking into account. The Biocenter Finland web pages provide a one-stop shop for access to the services, and Katja will describe this in more detail. Customer fees. So obviously, none of us scientists is happy to spend money, but at the same time, so it is important to understand that kind of these fees provide the kind of the sustainability on the services, and they also sort of sort of provide kind of sort of relevance, is an indication of relevance of these activities, because obviously one can order sequencing either from Beijing or from the national core facility, and sort of we need to be competitive and streamline and develop our activities. We are sort of reporting to our funders and also sort of annual providing sort of reports on our activities. And as said, sort of development of our activities is really sort of a fundamental principle, and the sort of feedback is collected, and we conduct regular customer surveys. So a few examples on the quality and impact of these services. Sort of Biocenter Finland has been in the Finland's research infrastructure roadmap with a category A grading. We've been successful in the FIRI calls, and the funding comes partly from the host universities on the salaries of the personnel, and these decisions are made based on the SAB's evaluation, and partly on the user fees. And the sort of user survey indicates a very good satisfaction on the services. Scientific impact, there are over 1,000 publications published annually, sort of that are based on these services, and approximately half of the most prestigious either positions or awards or grants are sort of relying on these infrastructure services. And on the very important social impact, sort of the COVID-19 response was a good example on the relevance and the importance of these activities, both in the healthcare and for example, both FIM and the Institute of Biotechnology sort of have been sort of closely involved in the COVID diagnostics and their development, and in the Kuopio, you are well aware on the vaccine projects that are directly sort of utilizing the infrastructure services that have been developed and so forth. Approximately half of the flagships ecosystems are relying on these, as well as the national competence centers, cancer, neuroscience, biobanks, genomics, and drug development. And all in all, sort of the state-of-the-art infrastructures is a critical for recruitment and retaining the best talents in Finland. And the innovations and industrial cooperation is considered extremely important aspect of our activities, and sort of based on these infrastructures and related activities, so several drugs and vaccines have been or are developed. And again, here in Kuopio, the gene therapies has sort of made sort of landmark developments, and personalized medications on cancer patients, and Finnish disease inheritance program, and also tangible financial sort of implication on these activities, and in the sort of commercialization are the recent souls of Mobidiac, which was founded in Institute of Biotechnology and based on the genomics infrastructure platform, and also the Forendo Pharma, and these are not very widely advertised, but both sort of values were sort of closing up 1 billion euros. We have just sort of finalizing the vision document for Biocenter Finland, and a few strategic goals for our activities that we obviously will be sort of a forward developer of national life science infrastructures, and sort of renewal and sustainability are sort of key aspects there, and we are sort of forerunners in open science and digital research data. And we sort of advocate the career development of core facility personnel. This is a sort of a very often sort of neglected but critical component on the whole infrastructure component. And obviously, sort of these infrastructures whether we are talking about imaging or genomics. So they are applicable to the entire life science field, whether we are talking about clinical trials or drug development, or we are talking about ecosystems. The international the sort of aspect on our activities will be sort of on the forefront, and obviously the European ESFRIs and sort of a cooperation with them is one key part, but we are also sort of increasing the interaction both on the Scandinavian biocenters as well as on the EMBL. And sort of as I briefly mentioned, sort of the supporting the innovation, translation, cooperation, and also with the academic hospitals will be in a sort of focus areas of our activities. The funding of Biocenter Finland currently is sort of distributed in different kind of departments or sources, and while part of them comes from universities, part of them come from ministry, and some come from Academia Finland. And sort of our goal is that to establish a national strategy for life science infrastructures, which would be sort of supported by governmental funding. So in the end, so up-to-date infrastructures provide the basis to address pressing challenges in life sciences and health, and it's supporting the forefront research. We are developing digital data-driven solutions, and as said, sort of this is a triangle that both the frontier research and solutions are really dependent on the research infrastructures, and I sort of you can learn more on our web pages, and this is where I stop and give the floor to Katja to continue on the sort of a bit more concrete sort of aspects on the infrastructure services. Thank you.
Thank you, Olli.
Thanks, Olli. Can you now see my presentation?
Yeah, it's visible.
Excellent. So, hello everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about the life science research infrastructures and services at the University of Helsinki. My name is Katja Kivinen. I'm based at FIM, the Institute of Molecular Medicine, Finland, but I'm responsible for the core facilities across the university, so helping all the life science cores. And very briefly, the life science core facilities or research infrastructures at the university have been grouped into 16 technology platforms. Altogether, we have more than 60 labs. And these are all coordinated by the Helsinki Institute of Life Science, which is HiLIFE in short. The platforms are shown here. In the end of this talk, I will also share a link to where to find them. Now, if we put this into national context, most of our laboratories are also members of Biocenter Finland, and we lead or chair around 2/3 of the Biocenter Finland technology platform. So these are the ones with an asterisk in the end of the platform name. And we are also heavily involved in the ESFRIs or ERICs, so these are the European level research infrastructures. They are listed on the left-hand side. And if we think about the university, we have tried to work on shared principles. So how do we operate our services? And all of our core facilities should be open access. So we take academic users, but also clinical and commercial users. We have a lot of users from HUS, for example, in Helsinki. And all of our facilities should be first come, first served. Now, there are some exceptions to this. For example, if we are running a clinical trial, if we get patient samples, those usually are fast-tracked because we also have promised the results quickly. Same goes with COVID-19 and any critical cancer samples we may receive. For pricing, we currently have 3 different pricing levels. So there's internal pricing, then there's Biocenter Finland. So this is all academic users in Finland. And then international users and all commercial users are lumped into commercial. So for commercial users, we do try to make a bit of profit. Then there's a question about whether it's a full service or a research collaboration. Now, this, of course, depends on whether you need standard services or something more tailored to your needs. For example, we are very happy to do method development, test new technologies, optimize these for your use. And some of these may become future services for others as well. We also do a lot of, we give advice and guidance on study design, selection of methods, data analysis and interpretation. One difference between different facilities is that some of them are walk-in. So anyone can be trained and then use the instruments independently. These are typically imaging or flow cytometry. Then other facilities are in-house. Most of the omics are in-house, for example. So users send in samples, get data back. And then, of course, pricing is also different based on how the facilities are managed. So if it's a walk-in, typically you pay by the instrument used, pay by hour. If you send in samples, get data back, you pay by sample and everything that's been done to the sample. Now I will go very quickly through the different platforms we have. My background is in genomics and bioinformatics, so I could have talked for an hour about these, but I thought it's fair to show you everything we currently have. So first of all, we do have wide range of sample collections, ranging from animals to plants, different kinds of microbial strains. And I would just like to say that these are open for research. These can also be loaned. And if you have your own sample, these can be digitized by the university. And we do also do identification of microbial strains, for example. Then the university has a few research outstations. These, of course, can be used for research, field research, laboratory research, but also if you need a quiet space for writing that publication or thesis or your book, you can always book a room there and go for a few weeks or a month or whatever. Next up, we have different kinds of animal and plant growth facilities. So the Laboratory Animal Center offers a wide range of mammalian animal models, but we also have smaller facilities for fruit fly and for zebrafish. And the plant growth facilities, we have both indoors and outdoors facilities, as well as of a plant phenotyping in Viikki campus. One of the biggest areas at the University of Helsinki is imaging, and we have one platform that offers clinical imaging services. These include simple EEG, but also MEG, some transcranial magnetic stimulation, and there's still a lot of method development there as well. So that's run by HUS and in collaboration with Aalto University. The other units do a lot of different kinds of microscopy, light microscopy and electron microscopy, as well as some X-ray, microscopy, imaging, and we do a lot of tissue handling, tissue preparation, and digitalization, digital slide scanning. Notably, some of these have also been involved in COVID-19 research. So I would like to highlight an Academy of Finland funded project that aims to identify inhibitors of COVID-19 infection. And that's on the left-hand side. Then another major area is omics. And again, I'm highlighting a few things. So on the genomics side, we have been helping THL, a National Public Health Authority, to monitor the emergence and spread of COVID-19 variants of concern in Finland. We've also been doing a lot of genotyping for an international COVID-19 host genetics initiative. And on the right-hand side, there's another Academy of Finland funded project to look at the SARS-CoV-2 and host proteome interactions. And this is to identify antiviral or discover antiviral drugs. And this is still ongoing, but this particular part has been published last year. Single cell omics is also very fast growing area. We do a lot of method development in this area, and new instruments have just arrived to the University of Helsinki that will be set up this spring for later use. Just starting also is the national, now national ICANN cancer flagship, where many of these omics teams will have a key supporting role. About the rest, we do a lot of drug sensitivity screening. We provide plates both for Finnish hospitals and internationally. And of course, they have also been involved in the COVID-19 research lately. We have very active flow cytometry units, 2 in Viki and 1 on Meilahti campus. And we provide different kinds of viral constructs and also human stem cells for research. And then we have a very active structural cell biology unit. So this was a very short introduction to what sort of things we do. A lot of these examples are from COVID-19, because obviously in the past 2 years, that's been on top of everyone's mind, but we do help others as well. So everyone from single research groups to these main national projects. And lastly, I would just like to say that, our services can be, you can use the standard services, we can tailor them as you like. We also do research collaborations. So if you require more optimization or new method development, just contact us. We are happy to help. And finally, I would like to say that it is really vital for all the core facilities in Finland that whenever you use them, always remember to acknowledge them. This is not because people want to advance their careers. It is because our funding from the universities and from the Academy of Finland depends on us being able to show that our researchers have used us. So the more acknowledgements we have, the better. And then, of course, if we have a research collaboration where we develop new methods, have a scientific role in the data analysis and interpretation, then of course it's a case of discussing co-authorship. And here's the link to the infrastructures. You also find it very quickly if you write HiLIFE infrastructures. Thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you, Katja. Now let's welcome Matti Iso-Mustajärvi from the Microsurgery Center of Eastern Finland. We'll take questions in the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions, write them in the chat.
All right. Hello. Do you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Excellent. Then I start my presentation and hopefully, let's see. Not this one, just a moment. Now do you see my presentation?
Yes.
All right. So hello everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to come and tell you about our center. My background is that I'm a ENT doctor, so ear, nose and throat doctor here in Kuopio University Hospital, and I just ended my leadership in this Microsurgery Center during the change of year. So I tell you something about what we have been establishing here inside hospital. So just a quick overview. The main aim when we were founding this center was to have this kind of training and innovation center. Training was probably the main driver at the beginning, to have good facilities for doctors to train microsurgical skills. So that was the main aim, and of course we aim to provide training facilities also for nurses, because it's kind of a cooperation that you do with the nurses in the operation room, so you should train as a cooperation also. But the research and innovation in a way was also very important, and I think the meaning of that has a bit changed from the beginning. And why you need this kind of training? Of course, the quality standards for modern surgery is quite different that they were, for example, in 70s, and you should be better when you start to do real surgeries, so you need to train before them. And to get to know your equipment and your hand movements and eye coordinations, that you don't have to learn them with real patients, is the kind of a basic idea behind this. But the Microsurgery Center itself, I would say this is not very old. Well, it's founded in 2017. There is, you can see, we made this internal report concerning how much there is this kind of operation that uses some kind of magnification in year at the Kuopio. So I would say quite a lot, and the number is, I would say, increasing. And the way we had kind of we were able to make this even better was that we got good funding from EU to take more that innovation into our actions. So also the research facilities, and this is concerning the operative research mostly. So of course, when you build good training facilities, you also in kind of the same way, when you build these simulations and you try to simulate operation room, you build also a very good test environment for the research in terms of operative technology and teaching of surgery and stuff like that. And then in addition, we have also been able to build up the research equipment. For example, monitoring and documentation. We have some of biometric measurements we can use, of course, EHG, and eye tracking is probably one of the most used, eye tracking the most, and then pressure sensors, and we can take video from the microscopes, also the overall video, and record audio during the tests that we do. And we have then also built up the computers and softwares for the researchers that they can analyze their data, gather data, and of course do the video manipulation and editing related to research. So shortly, what kind of facilities we really have? It's kind of 5 rooms. The number 3 is very important. That's our coffee room, but we have kind of a space we call the TriLab. It's for the training with that kind of training simulations that are not messy. If you got there, that you don't use any biological material in the TriLab. So there's the silicone tubes, and there is you can make some stitches for for example, and then you see the guy is doing stitches through that box. So you simulate kind of a surgical opening in the skull and do the stitches through that. Then the wet lab is probably the most sophisticated place. So there you can use all kind of biological material. For example, you can take the spine from a sheep or some other structures. I know that our anesthesiologist has been training with the big throat to just secure the airway. And then we use very much some cadaver parts, but the big I think we have good system. We can use placenta, which is you have tons of veins and arteries and connective tissues, and you can use it in the training and research as mentioned. Then conference area, well, that's a small conference area, 20 people. You get the screens and you can take video data from everywhere of the center and including the operation theaters of our hospital, because we have the same AV system. So it's possible to watch real operation in the center, that you can get the image from the operation room. Then this visualization laboratory, where you have all these audiovisual programs and editing capacities and that kind of stuff. And of course, we have virtual reality programs. They are for research and planning purposes. So shortly, what kind of research we do in the center? We have quite, I would say, concerning that we started at 2017, we have good ongoing research in development of new surgical technologies. And of course, we have been doing this kind of research in cooperation with the companies that we test and research new devices and technologies that are coming to market but need to be tested preclinically. And that has been mostly research-driven activity. And for example, we have active research group in cochlear implants that has been testing that kind of devices. And then, of course, there's surgical techniques, that how you should, for example, align your instrument, and can you use some machine learning to track your instruments and kind of predict what is going on by using machine learning. And then how you should train your surgical residents that they would get the most benefit. That's also ongoing. Good thing is we have good collaboration with our university, and there's quite a lot of contacts between the researchers and clinical experts. So I think a slide later on for that. And then, as mentioned, we have collaboration with medical companies in terms of just that they can bring their products for us to test, or just to get some feedback about them, or just to introduce that they have something new coming. And then we have this, that we can do some kind of MDA testing, and of course the deeper research projects as we have in the cochlear implant side. So this is kind of a picture about that, how this all goes together, that we have this know-how from the research part, that we do research relating on the surgical technology and surgical procedure. Then we have contacts to the industry side, and of course the whole training brings the expert from the hospital, and then that you have this kind of place inside the hospital that contacts these all groups, at least in theory, and you have kind of a good product testing or development place and platform. So there is just some projects and some corporations that are quite tightly connected to the center. So in terms of innovation and driving the research forward, this is something I wanted to take up, but of course this is hard to measure in terms of you cannot put a number in Excel sheet about this. But when you have kind of a stress-free environment where the people from university and hospital and of course the product specialists can meet each other, they probably have time to take coffee and have a chat and tell them about what kind of projects they have going on, what kind of research and what kind of ideas they have. And this, I would say, this has been really one of the benefits of our center, that usually, I don't know how much you know about the hospital environment, but it's quite hard to get the doctors away from the hospital during the day or come to university to do some research. So when you have this kind of place, you don't have to take the doctors, you can bring your devices and you can test them in the simulated environment and get probably specialists and doctors to get involved in your research better. So there is, I would say there's some examples we have that relating, for example, spectral imaging and some projects that I think we have been able to go from basic research into the clinical research, so we can take our research into the real operation room, and that has been happening from the 2017. The spectral imaging, which you can, the aim is to provide image where you have the tissues more clearly visible. So that has been able to go from the basic research to the clinical research, and I have been quite proud, not very much involved, but watching from the side how fast they have been doing it. So this is just some numbers and figures that we have been able to build up. And again, remember, we are not very old center. And there is then, as has been shortly mentioned, the product testing, this is something that we have been thinking, because we have been doing this technology research relating to this operation theater technology, that we could offer this kind of testing, and we have been piloting it. So it would be also, if there is companies that need this kind of a risk and usability evaluation, that we could use our simulated models in the simulated operation room situation and give feedback for the companies, that they would probably get easier the MDA approval in the end. So that's something we've been trying to develop. So here's again, this is a bit of a repeat from the beginning, but there is about this, how we can gather data and use it for this usability and risk evaluation also. So there's just a quick flow chart about how the product testing would go. So need for product testing, then contact the KYS. We have this kind of living lab, which is a larger scale of for any medical product, that they take them under there and connects to the right place. So surgery related product, no, then not to the Microsurgery Center, then living lab connects to appropriate section in KYS. But if it is, then we would be more than happy to have a chat and ideas how to bring the testing forward. So shortly about the current testing and developing one startup that's related to one PhD project, and that's another application of spectral imaging. The new technology brought to clinical research that I mentioned already, and then we do a lot of this collaboration research in cochlear implants, and virtual reality research concerning the operation planning and teaching surgical teaching aspects in virtual reality. Product testing we have been piloting with, I don't know if it's, do you know about the Certify, but that's so-called safety drill. We did clinical testing, preclinical, testing for them, and I think the company was very happy, and they were able to get the MDA approval, at least partly because of our tests. Then this is something ongoing process. We are establishing this kind of service model and try to make some kind of price for it. But that's one challenge when you are doing your business inside hospital, so to say, that you have some bureaucratic challenges to overcome. So here is more about these challenges. Hospitals, as you know, in Finland are public funded organizations which aims to provide healthcare services for the inhabitants. And I know that we have been having quite a lot of talks, at least in some groups, concerning the innovations and how to bring this kind of healthcare innovations that arise from inside the hospital. How would you get them easier to go forward? But this is not something that hospitals traditionally do. And if you think that in corporations you have this quartile, which is 3 months, in hospital quartile means 25 years, so the time frame is a bit different, and the bureaucratic processes and to establish something, because our fundings are quite strict, that's always demands quite a lot of work. And when you start to do deeper collaboration with corporations, that's also building up new culture, and it's traditionally hospital just buys products from corporations or do research related to, for example, medicine clinical researches. So doing some kind of technological cooperation is, I would say, it's quite new. So it's very slow to change, but nothing won't change if you don't try. So, and I would say there is a positive environment currently to develop new kind of activities and this kind of things in hospital. And we are getting new facilities, and I would say this is a quite good sign from the management that they are really seeing that our activity has been worth of continuing to continue. So I think that's mostly my presentation. There is our website address if you want to go and check it. So thank you all.
Thank you, Matti. Now I think there are some questions being asked in the chat. There were a couple of questions that Katja, you already elaborated on the chat or answered some, gave some of the answers there about some of the abbreviations, and also there were 2 questions about pricing or related to pricing and such. Katja, do you want to elaborate on this?
Yes, so like I said in the chat, it's easier to define a price for the kinds of services where the user is trained and then can operate an instrument independently. So in those cases, the pricing is fairly stable, but then in cases where there's new technology or there may be additional method development or guidance on study design or analysis and so forth, it's harder, especially in omics where the methods change fairly quickly. New chemistry comes in, new kits come in, and the prices can change several times a year. So I'm not that confident on saying anything on those, because it really depends, and I would urge people to always, if you're interested, to contact the relevant technology platform and discuss your needs with them. So that's the best thing I can say.
Thank you, Katja. Then there was a question for Matti from Pentti Paalu. First, can you tell us who are your customers, i.e. paying your salaries? Second, are you testing software products? And third, you mentioned NDA approval. What about CE approval?
If I begin from our salaries, during the project, we got quite a lot of money from the EU. So that was the pay most of the salaries then, but the project ended at the 2021, and now we are fully hospital funded. But the personnel that works inside the Microsurgery Center are part-time also, so they have about 50% in the center and 50% in clinical work, which has its pros and cons. Of course, when you are still in contact with the clinical part, you know that side very well, and you have this kind of realistic view about what is possible and what is not. But then, of course, you have 50% less time to do activities in the Microsurgery Center. Then there was the question about the MDA and CE approval. So our testing is that we offer just the part of the risk evaluation and the usability evaluation that concerns that you need, that is your new product better or at least as good as old product for the job mentioned, and then of course is the risk management plan that has been made for that product, is it good enough, or does there arise any new risks in the testing? That is what we provide. And then the actually MDA process or CE process, I'm not so aware of that, but I would guess the CE mark is easier to get than the mark for the medical device. But if you do go for market with the device that is intended for the medical purposes, you need both. So then it's a CE mark for the medical device, and you need this kind of MDA approval. And that's a whole process. There is different companies that provide that, and we are just focusing on what we can do, and that is to give the expert opinion about the usability and the risks for the product, and that is what we are building up. We would need more lawyers and stuff for the knowing about the whole process. And then the final was about the softwares. Currently, no, I think that's something the Living Lab is then taking care of. If you have software you want to test in hospital, then the contact is the Living Lab guides it to the other section. Of course, if it's kind of related to the operation room use, then it probably would be something that we could check, but that's something to consider depending on the software.
Thank you, Matti. Then there's one more question. Would you be able to assist in joint scientific consultations or data for dossier with new HTAR 2021/2282?
Was it for me or?
It's for you.
Maybe I need explanation. As you know, 11th of January, there are new regulations that have been published regarding health technology assessment, which spread over all pharmaceutical products, cell therapy, gene therapy, medical devices, in vitro medical device, and everything you can put in that one. which incorporate joint scientific consultation based on objective laboratory and test data, which needs to be provided by independent organizations. And these regulations will be obligatory for every medical device or medical product anywhere in Europe starting from 25th of May 2025. So the question is now that whether we have an infrastructure which can be particularly used within next, let's say, 1-2 years to provide the data for joint scientific consultation, or in better case, even for joint clinical assessment, because besides the mechanical or biological or whatever testing, let's also include ethical issues, socioeconomic issues, and health economy. So that means that the labs or independent tested providers can theoretically also give some background data about it, how much it costs, what does it affect, what are the ethical points of that, and so on and so on.
So if I answer just for my part, I think if we think just Microsurgery Center, I would say we are not ready for that scale of evaluation. And if, as an optimist, I would say that that's something that would be possible to build in cooperation with university and some other parties. But currently, I would say that that's too big issue to tackle right now, because we are still establishing just that risk evaluation product, so to say. So that would be
Matti, that's not a problem. Nobody is ready because that's very new. But the question is that if we have the vision to build up such kind of infrastructure which really can serve the needs of manufacturers, because without that, whatever test you do, it's give you the basic data. But if it's not fit with the regulations, the commercial value of that, or let's say added value for the device manufacturer, is not very high.
Yeah, I would say that's a service that would be very, very good and very wise to how do you say it, found and make. So, but the time frame to do that, it probably would be better that the driver in that would be some else organization than hospitals. So that in that sense, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Matti. I think there are no other questions at this moment, and I think that we're just on time. So I want to thank the presentators for their great insights and the audience for participations. So at this time, everyone have a great weekend, and we'll get back on the second health talks.